The humid Atlanta air, thick with the scent of blooming azaleas and freshly cut Bermuda grass, was a familiar embrace for Sarah Miller. It was a sun-drenched spring morning in 2004, and at 24, Sarah was meticulously, almost reverently, building a life she had envisioned for herself, brick by painstakingly acquired brick. Her days unfolded in a predictable, disciplined rhythm. She'd rise before dawn in her modest two-bedroom apartment in Sandy Springs, the worn carpeting a testament to previous tenants. Her morning ritual involved a strong cup of coffee, a quick scan of the financial news online. Even then, she was always learning. And then the bumper-to-bumper crawl down Georgia 400 to her entry-level marketing position at Nexus Innovations, a burgeoning tech firm nestled in the glass and steel canyons of Midtown Atlanta. She was exceptionally good at her job, efficient, analytical, with an innate understanding of data, and a nascent, intuitive grasp of the rapidly evolving digital landscape. But good didn't equate to glamorous in the eyes of her family, or indeed the world at large. Her paycheck, while steady, felt like a persistent trickle against the torrent of her aspirations. Sarah's ultimate dream wasn't one of extravagant yachts or global travel. It was far more tangible, more rooted in a sense of security and belonging. She pictured a home, a sanctuary she could call her own. Specifically, she dreamt of a classic Craftsman-style bungalow, with a deep front porch, sturdy columns, and shaded by ancient, gnarled oak trees. A place much like the elegant, historic residences she admired on her contemplative Sunday drives through the tree-lined streets of Decatur, a suburb renowned for its charming architecture and vibrant community spirit. This house would not merely be shelter. It would be a tangible symbol of her independence, her relentless hard work, and the quiet success she was determined to forge. Her savings account, though modest, was her sacred vault, growing slowly but consistently, bolstered by her frugal living. She religiously packed her lunches, eschewed impulse purchases, and meticulously maintained her trusty 1998 Honda Civic, nursing its reliable engine through thousands of miles until it practically hummed her a familiar lullaby. Her older brother, Mark, 6 years her senior, existed in an entirely different, more flamboyant orbit. Mark was an Aries, and he embodied every stereotype. He was loud, boisterous, unapologetically opinionated, charmingly arrogant, and relentlessly competitive. He worked in commercial real estate, thriving on the high-stakes hustle, the grand pronouncements, and the performative bravado of closing deals. To hear Mark tell it, he was perpetually on the cusp of his next multi-million-dollar acquisition, destined for unparalleled greatness and stratospheric success. Their parents, bless their well-meaning hearts, adored him unconditionally, often excusing his incessant bluster as mere enthusiasm, proudly referring to him as their golden boy. Sarah, by stark contrast, was the quiet, reliable one, the steady, unassuming hum in the background, rarely attracting attention but always consistently there. The pivotal moment arrived during their annual 4th of July barbecue at their parents' ranch house in Dunwoody. The tantalizing smell of sizzling grilled burgers mingled with the distant, festive pop of firecrackers, painting a quintessential suburban tableau. Mark, then a confident 30, held court on the expansive back patio, a frosty beer clutched in one hand, gesturing grandly with the other to punctuate his pronouncements. "All right, everyone, listen up," he boomed, his voice effortlessly cutting through the celebratory chatter and the easy laughter. "Big news, and I mean really big." He paused for a dramatic effect, allowing expectant smiles and murmurs of anticipation to ripple through the gathered family and friends. The Hawthorne House, you all know the one, 227 Oakdale Drive. The quintessential classic Craftsman in Decatur, corner lot, boasts all original architectural details and, of course, that truly magnificent, ancient oak tree dominating the front yard. It's finally on the market, and let me tell you, boys and girls, I'm putting in an offer this week. This, he declared, sweeping his arm dramatically across the expansive backyard, encompassing their collective future, is it? This is my legacy. My first significant investment, a trophy property. I've been eyeing it for years. It's unequivocally mine." A ripple of excited congratulations and impressed murmurs went through the family gathering. Sarah, despite a familiar pang of wistful longing for such a place herself, felt a genuine warmth and pride for her brother. The Hawthorne house was, after all, precisely the kind of elegant, historic residence she so deeply admired. It was beautiful, iconic, a genuine piece of Decatur's rich architectural history. "That's truly amazing, Mark," she said, stepping forward, a bright smile on her face. "Congratulations, I know how much you've wanted that house. It's magnificent. Maybe someday I'll be lucky enough to find a place even half as lovely. I've been saving hard myself, for my own place." Mark turned to her then, a slow, condescending smirk gradually spreading across his face, a familiar expression that always made her hackles rise. He took a long, deliberate swig of his beer, his gaze sweeping dismissively over her simple, practical sundress, her sensible, comfortable sandals, her understated appearance. He chuckled, a low, dismissive sound that sent a chill down her spine. "Oh, Sarah Bear," he said, using a childhood nickname she had detested even as a child, its saccharine tone now dripping with derision. "That's cute. Really, really cute. But let's be real, sweetie. You're in an entry-level marketing gig, making peanuts compared to what's needed for serious investments. This is a man's game, Sarah. The big leagues. You should probably just know your place. Focus on finding a nice husband to take care of you, someone who will buy you a little starter condo in Smyrna, maybe. Stop trying to compete with the big boys in real estate. It's simply not your lane, honey." The words, sharp and laced with disdain, landed like a brutal physical blow directly to her gut. The joyous, festive atmosphere around them seemed to dim instantly, the vibrant laughter of family members fading into a muffled, distant buzz. Sarah felt a scorching flush creep up her neck and across her cheeks, not merely with embarrassment, but with a searing, white-hot anger that coiled and tightened into a painful knot deep within her stomach. Her parents, seated comfortably nearby, offered weak, placating smiles, completely missing the profound injury their son had inflicted. "Oh, Mark, don't be so hard on your sister," their mother chided softly, her voice lacking any real conviction or authority. Her father merely chuckled, waving a dismissive hand. "You know Mark, always full of hot air." They perceived it as typical Mark. Sarah, however, experienced it as a public, humiliating execution of her most cherished dreams, a profound dismissal of her entire being, her ambition, her very potential. The phrase, "know your place," echoed relentlessly in her ears, burning with an incandescent, unforgivable heat. Sarah barely remembered the remainder of the barbecue. She excused herself early, citing a sudden, splitting headache, and drove back to her lonely apartment in a daze, the familiar roads of Dunwoody and Sandy Springs a blur through her unshed tears. The celebratory fireworks that night, usually a source of immense joy and wonder, felt like mocking, hollow explosions in the oppressive distance. She stumbled through her front door, locked it with a trembling hand, then sank onto her worn, floral-patterned couch, finally allowing the dam of her composure to break. Hot, indignant tears streamed down her face, not solely for the public humiliation, but for years of being overlooked, of being the sensible, quiet sister while Mark relentlessly hogged the spotlight, the praise, and their parents' unwavering attention. His cruel words weren't just about the impracticality of her real estate aspirations. They were a direct assault on her intrinsic worth, her burning ambition, her quiet yet immense potential. And he had, with casual cruelty, deemed them utterly insufficient. "Know my place?" She whispered to the cavernous, empty room, her voice hoarse and broken. "I'll show you my place, Mark." The anger, raw and potent and brimming with righteous indignation, began to solidify, hardening into something cold, sharp, and utterly determined. It was a searing clarity born of profound pain, a turning point. This wasn't merely about proving him wrong anymore. It was about reclaiming her own narrative, meticulously forging her own independent path, and achieving the kind of resounding success he had so casually, so thoughtlessly dismissed. The quiet, reliable, underestimated Sarah was gone, eradicated by the crucible of that moment. In her place stood a woman simmering with a slow, methodical, and utterly unstoppable resolve. The very next morning, the anger hadn't dissipated. Instead, it had sharpened into a laser-like focus that energized her every step. Sarah walked into Nexus Innovations with a new, unyielding fire in her eyes, a determined set to her jaw. Mark saw her as entry-level marketing. Fine, she would transcend that. She would become executive-level marketing, and then some. She immediately began staying late, devouring every online course she could find on SEO strategies, data analytics, content strategy, and user experience design skills that were rapidly becoming the gold standard in the nascent digital age. She aggressively volunteered for every challenging new project, particularly those involving intricate data analysis and the burgeoning social media platforms like MySpace and the then-infant Facebook, intuitively understanding their revolutionary potential long before many others. She wasn't just working. She was meticulously building an empire of knowledge and expertise, brick by digital brick, fueled by a relentless drive. While Mark continued to pride himself on his extensive networking and his infallible gut feelings about the volatile real estate market, Sarah was immersing herself in the cold, hard, verifiable data. She understood with crystalline clarity that while real estate was undeniably tangible, the future was unequivocally digital, and the fundamental principles of leverage, smart investment, and strategic growth applied with equal, if not greater, force to both. She actively sought out the brightest, most experienced mentors within her company and in her network, absorbing their wisdom and insights like a parched sponge. Her ferocious dedication didn't go unnoticed. By late 2006, she'd been promoted not once, but twice, now skillfully managing a small, high-performing team, her salary significantly higher, her responsibilities expanding exponentially. But her burgeoning career was only half of the meticulously planned battle. Her entire financial strategy underwent a radical, comprehensive transformation. No longer content with the anemic returns of slow-growth savings accounts, she immersed herself in the intricate world of personal finance and strategic investing, devouring seminal books by luminaries like Benjamin Graham and Peter Lynch, and poring over detailed market reports. She opened a brokerage account, starting small and cautiously, but rapidly gaining confidence, carefully researching promising tech companies and emerging markets. The dot-com bust of the early 2000s served as a cautionary tale, but the smart money was still there, quietly growing. She lived even more frugally. Every hard-earned bonus, every well-deserved raise, every single spare dollar meticulously funneled into her increasingly diversified investments. She developed an incredibly keen eye for undervalued opportunities, strategically investing in companies that were building the foundational infrastructure of the internet, robust cloud storage solutions, advanced data analytics firms, and the early pioneers in mobile technology. She saw the long game, not the short-term flash. Meanwhile, Mark's grand, boastful plans for the Hawthorne house had, as Sarah had almost presciently predicted, come to naught. The specific details remained conveniently hazy. He vaguely blamed unforeseen market fluctuations, a particularly difficult and unreasonable seller, or a last-minute, inexplicable financing snag that was somehow beyond his control. He'd announced his offer with such unshakable confidence, but the deal had, quite simply, never closed. For months, he'd meticulously skirted the topic, skillfully redirecting conversations, then eventually dismissed it with a contemptuous wave of his hand. "Oh, that house, overrated really, too much upkeep. I'm onto something much bigger and better now, trust me." He eventually bought a different, newer, but ultimately far less charming house in a less prestigious, more cookie-cutter subdivision in Alpharetta, still tirelessly bragging about its impressive square footage. But the genuine sparkle and profound allure of the Hawthorne house was conspicuously absent from his eyes, replaced by a vague, underlying defensiveness. He continued his relentless pursuit of the next big deal, never quite managing to catch the one that would truly cement his self-proclaimed status as a real estate mogul. He married his college sweetheart, Sarah Bate, in a lavish, overtly extravagant wedding in 2008, an event that left him somewhat overextended financially. But he meticulously maintained the illusion of boundless prosperity and effortless success. The years, marked by both global upheaval and personal triumph, bled into one another. The devastating financial crisis of 2008 struck with brutal force, rattling markets and sending shockwaves through the global economy. Yet Sarah, armed with her strategically diversified portfolio and conservative, long-term investment strategy, weathered the storm with surprising resilience. She even saw unique opportunities amidst the widespread chaos, quietly acquiring shares in fundamentally strong companies whose prices had temporarily plummeted due to market panic. By 2012, Sarah was 32, a highly respected associate director of digital marketing at Nexus Innovations, expertly managing a substantial budget and a high-performing team of 15 dedicated professionals. She now drove a sensible, yet elegant, new Audi A4, a quiet acknowledgement of her elevated status. Her meticulously cultivated investments had grown exponentially, propelled by the relentless, accelerating march of technology and her own astute, patient decision-making. She had become quietly, remarkably wealthy. Mark, now 38, was still entrenched in real estate, still talking a big game, but his career trajectory had noticeably plateaued. He owned a decent brokerage, but the truly massive, career-defining deals always seemed to inexplicably elude him. He drove a flashy, perpetually financed GMC Denali, and his family vacations to Disney World or the Caribbean were always just slightly beyond his actual means, funded by credit and optimistic future sales. He still, infuriatingly, saw Sarah as the younger sister, successful enough in her own little corporate world, but certainly not in his league, not a true competitor. He'd occasionally offer unsolicited, often misguided financial advice, scoffing at her boring index funds and safe tech investments, preferring his own high-risk, high-reward ventures that often seemed to fizzle out with little fanfare or tangible return. He had absolutely no idea of the quiet, unstoppable financial force she had become. Then, in the late summer of 2012, an unassuming email arrived in Sarah's inbox from a real estate alert service she'd long forgotten she had set up. The subject line, innocuous to anyone else, made her heart pound with a sudden, electrifying jolt. New listing 227 Oakdale Drive, Decatur, GA, the Hawthorne House, back on the market. The original buyers, a couple named the Andersons, having lived there for nearly a decade, were relocating to San Francisco for an incredible new job opportunity. It was even more breathtakingly beautiful than she remembered, meticulously maintained, perhaps even a little grander in its lovingly restored glory. The asking price was significantly higher than it had been in 2004, a figure that would have seemed utterly insurmountable to her younger self. But for the Sarah of 2012, it was no longer an insurmountable figure. It was a goal, finally, decisively, within her grasp. She acted swiftly, with surgical precision and absolute silence. She contacted a discreet, highly reputable real estate agent known for her confidentiality, someone completely outside of Mark's extensive professional network. She wanted absolutely no leaks, no premature whispers. The agent was visibly surprised and then deeply impressed by the speed and unwavering decisiveness of Sarah's offer, a robust, all-cash offer above the asking price with zero contingencies. The sellers, eager for a quick, hassle-free closing due to their impending relocation, accepted within a mere 24 hours. Sarah signed the intricate papers in a quiet, anonymous law office in Midtown, the official deed to 227 Oakdale Drive, Decatur, GA, now unequivocally bearing her name. She had bought the house, his house. The house, a testament to its previous owner's care, needed very little structural work, mostly just cosmetic touches to reflect Sarah's refined taste. Sarah spent a few intensely satisfying weeks personalizing it, carefully choosing furniture that perfectly complemented its timeless craftsman charm, adding vibrant, contemporary art to its historic walls, and meticulously cultivating the already lush garden. She kept her acquisition a complete secret from her family, allowing the anticipation to build. The reveal came on a crisp October Sunday. Sarah had, with an air of casual nonchalance, invited her parents and Mark's family, Mark, his wife Sarah Bate, and their two energetic young children over for a relaxed, home-cooked lunch, ostensibly at her new place. She hadn't provided them with the specific address, merely giving them directions to meet her at a charming coffee shop in the bustling Decatur Square, then instructing them to follow her car. They pulled up to the picturesque curb of 227 Oakdale Drive. The massive oak tree stood sentinel in the front yard, its leaves just beginning to turn golden bronze, a herald of autumn. The deep, welcoming front porch, the intricate, original woodwork, the iconic, unmistakable Craftsman lines, it was undeniably the Hawthorne house. Mark, driving his gleaming, oversized GMC Denali, pulled up directly behind Sarah's sleek Audi A4. He killed the powerful engine, and the usual boisterous, almost frantic energy perpetually emanating from his vehicle was instantly replaced by an unnerving, almost palpable silence. He stared, his mouth slightly agape, his eyes wide with a potent mixture of profound confusion, disbelief, and a slow, dawning horror. Sarah's parents, in their own car just behind him, let out audible gasps of stunned surprise and then overwhelming delight. "Sarah, darling, this is the Hawthorne house," her mother exclaimed, her voice thick with a profound, almost reverent emotion. Sarah stepped gracefully out of her car, a serene, almost beatific smile playing on her lips. She walked with deliberate, confident steps up the flagstone path, retrieved a polished brass key from her elegant leather handbag, and with a soft click, unlocked the heavy oak front door. "Welcome, everyone," she said, her voice calm, utterly devoid of any overt triumph or gloating, yet radiating an undeniable, quiet power. "Welcome to my new home." Mark stumbled out of his enormous SUV, his face pale, his carefully constructed, lifelong composure crumbling before their very eyes. He pointed a trembling, accusatory finger at the majestic house. No, that's not possible. This was my house. The Hawthorne. I was going to buy this." How did you?" His words trailed off, his characteristic bravado evaporated, replaced by sheer disbelief, envy, and an overwhelming sense of personal defeat. Sarah turned slowly to face him, her gaze steady, unwavering, holding his, allowing him to truly see her for the first time in years. The long years of quiet hard work, the nights spent studying and strategizing, the sacrifices she had made, the sting of his dismissive words, they all culminated, sharpened, and solidified into this potent moment. "You told me to know my place, Mark," she said, her voice soft but crystal clear, cutting through the crisp autumn air like a finely honed blade. "And I did. I knew my place wasn't just an entry-level job or a little starter condo in Smyrna. My place was always meant to be right here. This beautiful home, secured not by empty boasts or grand pronouncements, but by my own hard work, my own astute investments, my own quiet determination." She gestured around the elegant living room, the late afternoon sunlight streaming through the intricate stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopic patterns on the gleaming original hardwood floors. "While you were busy talking about your big plans, Mark, I was meticulously building mine. Silently, methodically, I learned, I invested, I waited. And when the opportunity finally arose, I seized it without fanfare, without needing anyone's permission or validation." Mark stood utterly frozen, completely speechless, his bluster finally silenced. His broad shoulders slumped, the very air seeming to deflate from him like a punctured balloon. The carefully curated image of the successful, dominant older brother shattered into 1,000 pieces. He saw not just the house, but the undeniable, stark contrast between his superficial bluster and her profound, quiet substance. His parents, initially overjoyed and bursting with pride, now looked at Mark with a new, somber understanding, realizing the true depth of his past condescension and Sarah's incredible, hard-won achievement against it. There was pride, yes, but also a silent acknowledgement of their own past blind spots. The lunch proceeded, a delicious meal in a stunning setting, but the underlying family dynamic had irrevocably shifted. Sarah's parents were beaming with an almost incandescent pride, repeatedly expressing their awe and unreserved admiration for her. Mark remained profoundly subdued, picking disconsolately at his food, barely able to meet Sarah's steady, knowing eye. The humiliation was complete, not delivered with a shout, a dramatic flourish, or an act of petty cruelty, but with the quiet, irrefutable reality of her monumental success. Sarah didn't gloat. There was no need. The house itself, standing solid, magnificent, and undeniably hers, was the ultimate statement. It was a monument to her unshakable resilience, a testament to the quiet, formidable power of being underestimated. The revenge wasn't bitter, but profoundly, deeply satisfying, a true vindication. She had not only proven him wrong in the most spectacular way imaginable, but she had also, in the process, meticulously carved out her own magnificent space in the world, a place where she truly belonged, a place of dignity and earned respect. And in doing so, she had shown Mark, and perhaps more importantly herself, exactly what her place really was. A place of immense strength, unwavering independence, and quiet, unstoppable power.